What's up, guys? Welcome to the Put Me In Coach podcast,
where we go beyond the headlines and deep dive everything NFL.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Andy.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. But let's pivot and let's start with maybe the most, probably ironically, maybe the least talented player on this team from a hype standpoint, but the most talked about player on this team because of the position he plays. Where are you on Brock Purdy in 2024? You know, the enigma that is, Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh boy, it's so hard. He's the most frustrating player I think I've ever had to evaluate, because it's like the question I keep coming back to is, do you elevate this team or does this team elevate you, right? And I think there's a fair argument both ways, right? Like there's no, I think that the term game manager is a little frustrating when dealing with a team this good, right? It's like when you look at his numbers, and we'll go through them, right? Like I don't, before I nitpick anything, I need to and I want to give Brock Purdy his flowers, because being Mr. Irrelevant, you weren't like a 4th round flyer. You weren't like even like a 6th round guy like Brady. Like you were the very last pick in the draft, where they roll out a really like dickhead jersey and say, "Oh, it's Mr. Irrelevant. Oh, you're the last pick in the you're made a mockery of." And this kid this year, 4th in completion percentage. He was second among guys who played over 10 games. I think Jake Browning and like Mason Rudolph were actually 1 and 2. 5th overall in yards, 1st in average, 3rd in touchdowns, 1st in passer rating. I mean, that's crazy. You're the last pick in the draft, and those are the numbers that you're putting up. Like that to me is on a base level unbelievable. The problem that I have is I've been told all year, oh, he should be the MVP, and oh, when he's up for his extension next year, he's going to be the highest paid player in NFL history. And it's kind of like, I don't know if that's a good move personally. And as a fan of another NFC team that's in that Super Bowl window, in that contender window, I do feel like paying Brock Purdy that type of money completely benefits me and my team. Because I truly, and this is like including my own Jared Goff, right? This is like, I think the highest paid quarterback in the league should be left to the guys who really elevate their team. Patrick Mahomes should be 1. It shouldn't even be close, right? It should be a 1 and then a mega gap. 2 should be Josh Allen, 3 should be Joe Burrow, and 4 should be Lamar Jackson. That is just how I feel like it should be. Though that should be the order of players in which they are paid, and the best quarterbacks get paid the most money. Granted, that's not the market. That's not how the market works, and I'm not here to pocket watch anybody. If Brock Purdy becomes the highest paid player in NFL history, I mean, hey, props to him, man. I got nothing personal against Brock Purdy, and I want to see the kid win, but Again, the problem I have is like, do you actually elevate your team or does your team elevate you? I mean, let's go through it, right? Trent Williams, your left tackle, 1st team All-Pro. Christian McCaffrey, your running back, 1st team All-Pro. Arguably the best player in the NFL last year. And for what it's worth, for my money, he easily was. He should have been the MVP, not Lamar. It should have been Christian McCaffrey. Kyle Juszczyk, 1st team All-Pro. George Kittle, 1st team All-Pro. You have Brandon Aiyuk, 2nd team All-Pro. Try playing from behind without Fred Warner, 1st team All-Pro. Chardavius Ward, 2nd team All-Pro. Nick Bosa, one of the 5 best edge rushers in this game. And that's before I even mention guys like Deebo Samuel, Javon Hargrave, Dre Greenlaw. I mean, you guys they're loaded. They're loaded all around this roster. It is one of the craziest rosters I've ever seen. And then, not to mention your head coach, as Ian said earlier, outside of Andy Reid, is probably the best offensive mind we've ever seen. So again, are you elevating this team or is this team elevating you? And the answer was within a guy that I think we all remember in 2019, Jimmy G. I went back to 2019, the last time you guys played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and lost a close game and had a quarterback who we were being told was, oh, he's more than a game manager. He's really that guy. He's really that guy. And he was. I mean, he was 6th in completion percentage. He was 12th in yards. He was 3rd in average. He was 5th in touchdowns, and his passer rating was 2nd in the league. And that year, he had Kittle was an All-Pro. DeForest Buckner was a second-team All-Pro. Richard Sherman was a second-team All-Pro, and Nick Bosa was the Rookie of the Year. So he didn't even have all the All-Pros that you have currently. He had half of that. So I just have to ask, like, are you really that guy? You're good. I'm not here to deny that you're good. You're really good. Are you best player in the NFL? Are you really an MVP candidate? Are you really deserving of being the highest paid player in NFL history? Because for what my money's worth, you're not. That's just how I feel about you. I think you're a good quarterback, but I do think that you leave I have to see you without all these all pros. Go play in Carolina for a year. That's how I can really evaluate you. What really are you? Because I know what I watched in the second half of that Lions game, in the NFC Championship game. I watched a guy who, frankly, delivered when it was time. But then I go to the Super Bowl 2 weeks later, and I watch Christian McCaffrey get completely neutralized by that Chiefs defense, and Spagnuolo design an entire defense around stopping your run game, and I watched you struggle. I watched you guys have 10 points less than you typically did throughout the entire year because your actual best player, Christian McCaffrey, the real MVP of the team, the real MVP of the league, was neutralized. He was taken out of the game, and you couldn't rise above.
Yeah, well, and there's
sorry.
and there's also the really stark, graphic that I think people who are Brock Purdy truthers get kind of tired of seeing, and I understand why. And I don't mean to be that guy who piles on to remember the graphic. I know it's annoying, but there is that graphic, that very damning graphic of looking at what his numbers are when Deebo Samuel's not in the lineup. And you saw it in the game against Cleveland last season that they lost, and they ended up, on a Jake Moody missed field goal at Cleveland.
Yeah.
When you take one of these guys out of the puzzle, he tends to regress, quite a bit. But again, I mean, you're spot on the other end of the spectrum. He has been very clutch, and this whole conversation, I mean, the doubters going into this season who were like, yeah, I think he's just not that great. He's not that great. He threw some great balls. I mean, look at the Dallas game. I mean, against that Dallas
he's
defense,
a great quarterback.
He won them that game.
No, 100%. 100%. I totally
such
agree.
A good player.
I think
so
when I think of game manager,
is that the way they win? No, is that the way they win? I mean, is he truly elite enough as a talent and as a quarterback? Because I think he's an elite processor. I do, and I think he's truly, the fact that all these teams missed on him, I think is a bummer. But I'm with you that you got to wonder, if you pay this guy and you start losing these pieces, is he that type of quarterback? Is he that type of quarterback?
No, I don't think he is.
Right.
I think
That's a different question.
Because when I think of game manager, I think of Ryan Tannehill or Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ritter. You know what I mean? Those are game managers. Those are guys that you look at and you go, okay, you're not really like that. Brock Purdy's definitely better than that. I just don't think he's much better than that, I guess. You know what I mean? I think he's much more Baker Mayfield than he is Joe Burrow, right? And all year I've been told, oh, he's right up there with Burrow. I mean, look at the numbers. It's all right, go Tua. Put Joe Burrow on that San Francisco. He's Tua. Yeah, 100%. He's Tua.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit better than Tua.
100%.
But
he is. But again, you put. I saw this this hilarious tweet a few weeks ago, and somebody said, would Kyle Shanahan trade Brock Purdy for Trevor Lawrence? And somebody retweeted it and responded and said, Kyle Shanahan would drive Brock Purdy himself to Jacksonville in a busted down car with no AC to get Trevor Lawrence. And that's just the real spill. He just would. That's just how it goes. He just would do that. And you're talking to me like he's Joe Burrow or he's Josh Allen. I mean, go put one of those guys on this team, they will go 17-0. That'd mean point blank period. They would go 20-0. They would win the Super Bowl easily. You know what I mean? This is the most stacked roster I think I've ever seen in my life. When you really go through it, and especially this past year, when I'm looking at, 9 all pros, it's what? are we talking about? That's insane. And then I read these lists from the 33rd team and ESPN, and we're ranking who's got the best, and it's just Niners. It's like, who's got the best this? Who's got the best this? Who's got the best this? And it's not. It feels a little like, all right, that's ridiculous. Like, really? And then you go through it, and you're like, yeah, they do have the best tight end. They do have the best wide receiver core. They do have the best left tackle. They do have the best running back. It's like that's just facts. So I don't know. You know what I mean? I walk away from it not really knowing the answer. I know what my gut tells me, and my gut tells me is that you're not really that guy. But you were also in the Super Bowl, so like I can't say you're not that guy, because I mean Tua's never won a playoff game, right? And we're saying that's his comparison. I mean, not many guys have gone to the Super Bowl. You had to lock in that second half and beat a very good Detroit team. You had to lock in the second half and sneak away with that kind of steamrolling Packers team. But again, were those teams like world beaters? I think the Lions were a lot of fool's gold last year. I think the Packers were just really hot. Did they really should they really have been there? Should the Lions even have really been there? They narrowly escaped the Rams. They narrowly escaped the Bucks. And then they come to you guys and like you said, they had you guys beat badly in the first half. And then, your defense locks in and starts making their offense do Detroit things, if you will. And you guys had a couple of, the Aiyuk catch off of the cornerback's face. Like there was some fool's gold. There was some luck in there. But in the end of the day, you still overcame. But what NFC powerhouse was really there outside of you guys last year? You didn't have to go through an elite Philly team. You didn't have to go through the Rams, who were also red hot, and you guys have a ton of history amongst yourselves. Like you kind of avoided those teams. You didn't have to see a Cowboys team that you were really supposed to see at some point, but they choked. So I don't know, man. It is hard to evaluate Brock Purdy for me, and that's just kind of where I'll leave it. You guys can probably disagree, and you guys will get triggered, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think no. I mean, I honestly believe that there's a lot of 49ers fans who might vibe with what you're saying a little more than you think. I mean, I think objectively, it is a real question. Nobody's discounting what he's done at this point. I think he has proven it. But it's also like from a business perspective, what's going to happen if? It's just that question. And I think it's an interesting conversation. And again, with the playoff stuff, I mean, they were so good in the regular season. They secured themselves a 1 seed, right? And that's what enabled them to kind of the Super Bowl went through Santa Clara last year.
San Francisco,
and,
yeah,
and that's the thing. So you have that. You have to. Are you going to be able to do that again in a regular season? Are you going to be so dominant this regular season again, all season, that you have that serendipitous playoff run?